voices in the blackest night, spitting tales of emerald light. Myron and Phil with the banter tight, lantern stories taking flight. Heroes clad in emerald light, cosmic battles in the dark of night. Guardians calling from the galactic height, power rings are shining bright. Tune in for the mighty lore, legends that you can't ignore. From Mogo to Sinestro's war, the podcast of Oed gives you more.
Hey, Green Lantern fans, welcome to episode number 263 of the podcast of Oa. I'm your co-host, Myron Rumsey, and I am joined by my friend on the other end, Mr. Phil Bova. Phil, my friend, fall is here. Well, not quite technically, but close enough. Kids are getting back in school.
Yeah,
Life is moving on, man.
it is. It is. It's not as hot here as I thought it would be. I mean, we got some 80s, but it's great. The humidity's down, so I know summer's over. So yeah, kids are back, like you said, man. We started back a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks now.
We start here. We start tomorrow, actually. So it'll be interesting. It'll be all hands on deck at work where I'm working. But
Yep.
for me, it's getting close to Halloween season. That's the best part.
There's that. That's
Already,
right.
already making big plans. I'm not going to let things slow me down. As we were talking off mic, that's my greatest weakness, man. But
Yeah.
I've been like dead man walking the last couple of weeks. I had every intent on coming back from Terrificon and editing the episode and getting it right out again, and I was spent. I was crashing every day after work and sleeping. I was not productive at all. So I apologize for not getting the episode out earlier, but I had nothing in the tank. I think I was telling you off mic, I walked over 17,000 steps, plus I drove back and forth to Connecticut, which for me is about a 6 hour drive. So it was a long thing, but it was a great trip. Since we're talking about Terrificon a little bit, let me go a little bit about what happened when I was there. Got to meet some great people. Obviously, got to meet. I'm going to throw pictures up for the people watching on YouTube, but got to meet Jeremy Adams. That was a lot of fun. I walked up to him and he looked at me and he came up from behind the booth, gave me a great big hug, and the most unusual thing happened. He asked if he could take his picture with me, which I was like, dude, you're the celebrity. I'm just a moron. And the people behind me in line, my wife overheard them go, "Who's this guy? Is this guy somebody? Should we be getting his autograph?" I'm like, "No, I'm nobody." But that was fun. We chatted for a little bit. He had a pretty good line, so we didn't get to talk for very long. But one of the first things he said to me is, "When am I coming back on the show?" So we will be making plans soon to have him back on. It may even be the next episode. It depends on how scheduling works out. But we'll reach out and talk about that when it gets a little closer. We may announce it on social media. I don't know. But he was a lot of fun. Got a couple books signed by him. I'll just show him real quick here. A couple books signed by him, and we chatted a little bit. We talked a little bit about the Interceptor being backwards, and he kind of laughed about it. And he talked about the fact that it was when it was in the Jeff Johns era, they used the Interceptor, and it was before it really had shown up in the cartoon or it didn't have a real presence there. So the artist originally drew it backwards. So when he put it in the script, he assumed that Zermanico knew which way it was supposed to face. He of course was referencing back to the old book, so he drew it backwards. And it's harder as an artist to undo something like that. He could have just started drawing it the correct way, but Adams thought, well, geez, I could have some fun with it. So he used it as a story point, which I thought was kind of cute. We did talk a little bit about how in issue 25, Carol makes that comment to John about him talking about how bad his life is, and her kind of making a little bit of a dig at him. And I go, I don't know if you realize this, but that was a lot bigger dig than you think it is, because she technically killed Katmatui, his wife. And I don't know whether he knew it or not. I don't remember that part of the conversation, but he had kind of more like those, oh geez, looks on his face. But we had some good conversation. My wife and he were kind of fun together because, as we talked about previously on the show, He was the story editor for the final season of Supernatural, and my wife is a huge Supernatural fan, and that last season was hard for her. So I kind of jokingly said to him that I need to talk to him first while he can still talk, uh, because she might hit him. But it was all in good fun, and we had a good time there. It was really a pleasure to meet him. But that was a high point. One of the other high points was meeting Steve Englehart, got him to sign the first appearance of Kilowog. Uh, he I think might have been in poor health because he was not moving too much. So I didn't talk to him too long because he seemed like he was not feeling his best. But I got to meet him. Also got to meet Paul Kupperberg, who has done a number of backups back in the days when Tales of the Green Lantern Corps was a backup in the main Green Lantern series, as well as having its own annuals there for a little while. He also wrote a really neat script that he and I talked a little bit. He's interested in coming on the show and talking about the script, but he did there was a series of books back in the day called Legends of the DC Universe, and one of the things that he did is he wrote a three-part script that fit into the Emerald Twilight story and kind of gives you more background on Hal's mindset, which fleshes out a story which we all know was very rushed. So we chatted for a little bit. He is a big fan of that story. He's a big fan of the Green Lantern mythology. I asked him if he'd be willing to come on the show, and he goes, "Absolutely, just reach out to me and we'll schedule a time." So I lined up an interview with him coming down the road. And then the other person I got to talk to was Joe Kelly. And for those that don't know who Joe Kelly is, Joe Kelly wrote the Green Lantern Legacy, Last Will and Testament of Hal Jordan, which is the book which kind of paved the way for the return of Hal. And I think you and I may have talked about it, or maybe Bill and I talked about it once upon a time. But he was delighted to see a copy of this being given him to be signed. And I asked him if he would like to come on the show, and he said, absolutely. Reach out to me, we'll schedule it. He goes, I got to reread it because it's been a while since I read it. He told me something really interesting about it, though, that Mike Carlin came to him and said, "Hey, here's a title for a story. Go write it." So there was no real plan from DC's perspective, at least as far as he could recall, for what the story would become and what it would do. So I think that's really interesting. I don't know whether it's just good karma that this story kind of paved the way for the return of the Green Lantern Corps and the writers at DC picked up on it. And then eventually when Peter Tomasi pitched that Jeff Johns do Green Lantern Rebirth, it just all the pieces fell in place. It could just be a great case of things coming together randomly, or it could be maybe there's more of a plan than we think. That maybe Mike Carlin had an idea about what he wanted to do, and who knows. But we'll be talking to Joe Kelly too at some point. So we've got 3 interviews lined up for down the road. Don't know exactly when yet. I got to work out all the scheduling and all that good stuff. But it was a good show. Also got to meet Jerry Ordway and Paul Jurgens. Is it Paul Jurgens?
Dan Jurgens.
Yeah, Jurgens. Good point. Getting old is hard. Dan Jurgens.
He's one of my faves. I was
Yeah,
one that guy.
he
Never got
was
to
there.
meet
He,
him.
he was really nice, and with all of the renewed interest in Superman, he was very busy. He and
Yeah,
Jerry Ordway were
yeah.
very busy. Other Green Lantern news. We talked a little bit about in the last episode about my adventures with Green Lantern, and after we recorded, but before the episode was released, more details were released. We know that Kyle, the Kyle character from My Adventures with Green Lantern, is going to be Kyle Rayner. He will be Jessica's love interest. And Alex DeWitt will also be in the show. And for those that don't remember who Alex DeWitt is, she is Kyle's girlfriend. She is the infamous girl in the woman in the refrigerator from that whole scene. But in the cartoon, she's described as the popular girl at school. She's a softball star, and she's the daughter of politicians. So obviously a little bit of a twist there. Other things which make me kind of scratch my head a little bit. Kilowog is described as a warrior monk, and he's the last surviving Green Lantern. He apparently served in an incident in the past that involves the collapse of the Green Lanterns. So he's somewhat connected to that. And he serves as a mentor to Jessica. But the whole warrior monk thing in Kilowog, interesting combo.
Well, I would have to say that whatever that collapse was involves what happens next, right?
Possibly. The series is set in Coast City, which I find it funny, and that Kyle and Jessica and Alex will be students at Hal Jordan High School.
Well, I mean, there you go. I mean, are they trying to like write Green Lantern out of the narrative? I mean, I know the popularity shifts, and I get that, but like, I mean, you got John Stewart, and now you're going to make Kyle Rayner the popular one in kids' school. And oddly enough, it's hitting on the same market as it was when he came out to begin with. That teen, right? I
Right,
mean,
right.
he was kind of like a teenage kid getting a toy when he came out.
Yeah, I mean he was probably in early 20s at
Right.
that time. Close enough to being a teen,
But he
right?
was right. Or maybe just out of height. But anyway, interesting. Oh well, whatever.
I I get what they're trying to do, but here's the problem I always see with this kind of stuff is you're creating an expectation for people and you're creating fans of something that isn't anything related to the comics, and it does nothing more than create confusion in the long run. Go no further back than the 2011 movie when they announced Ryan Reynolds as Hal Jordan, and you had a lot of fans thinking that Green Lantern was being whitewashed because they didn't know anything beyond what they saw in Green Lantern or in the Justice League cartoons, which completely ignored the mythology and the fact that Hal Jordan was there before John, except for one episode where they kind of showed an alternate version of Hal during a time shift, which woohoo, right? But
Well,
it creates confusion, right?
not to mention the last animated travesty that came out that totally bent everything. The hell with whatever we created in comic books. We're just gonna throw it on a plaster wall and see what sticks.
Green Lantern, beware my stupidity. I mean, power. Yeah.
Terrible. That was
Well,
absolutely terrible. I don't even own that. I don't even want to own it. But anyway, it's
I,
just
I,
gonna
I, I think, Warner Brothers did the Green Lantern movie and everybody said, oh, this is the worst Green Lantern ever. And DC Animation said, hold my beer. Um, and it
yeah.
did this monstrosity. Um, interesting though. Speaking a little bit about Beware My Power, I was contacted recently by the writer of Beware My Power, Ernie Altbacher, who also wrote a number of episodes of Green Lantern, the animated series. And he and I kind of became friends after the animated series came out and his shows came out. And he kind of said that wasn't my arc for Hal. I pitched something different and was shot down. So obviously the decision making for this was not left with the writers. Somebody had an idea of what they wanted to do. And obviously he didn't go into any greater detail. And I need to respond to him. I haven't yet. I mean, he reached out to me when I was full on in recovery mode from the stroke, and I had forgotten about it until I was talking with Jeremy Adams, and then it popped in my head. So I need to reach out to Ernie Altbacher and talk to him a little bit about that. And I don't know if he can talk about it, and I don't want to put him in a position where he'd have to. If he, I don't want to put him into a position where he tries to explain it and gets himself in trouble because he's a writer, right? And he needs to work. But he did say that he had pitched a different arc for Hal. I kind of would like to talk to him to see, well, what was your arc? What was your story idea? I don't, let's not talk about why it wasn't allowed to happen, but what was your story idea for it? And it's not going to make that movie any better, but it might be of interest to know what his plans might have been.
Right.
Other things going on. There is a new McFarlane figure of the Dark Stars. I don't know if you've seen this yet, Phil, but that's out there. Pretty cool. Uh, Neat pickup. And then talked about a new line of Funko Pops called DC Classics, and they showed an image of it, which I'll throw up again for those on YouTube, of a new Hal Jordan Funko Pop, as well as a new Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman in their classic uniforms, classic costumes. Although it looks like the Hal Jordan one is the rebirth costume. It's got the shoulder pads, but it doesn't have the trunks. And apparently, there's also miniature versions of those Funko Pops that are keychains.
I need one. I need a Superman one for my mini.
Yeah, yep. I don't know when they're coming out. I didn't see a date or anything, but they were announced, but no release dates as far as I could tell. As far as merchandising and Green Lantern news, that's all I've got. Have you heard anything else at all in your
No,
crazy world?
I'm anticipating some kind of like teaser for lanterns at some point in the foreseeable. I'm thinking probably by Christmas, maybe.
Maybe. The only thing I heard was that there was nothing on the schedule for New York Comic Con
And
for it.
that's when does that happen?
That's this fall.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was something at some time after that. I was thinking by Christmas because it comes out next year, right?
Possibly, yeah.
All
That's
right,
that's when it's scheduled, right?
right.
But that
Okay.
we always know those kind of things get changed. We don't know what the progress is on effects or any of those kinds of things. Oh, I forgot to tell my Terrificon horror story. So I was at the show and I looked at the schedule looking to see if there was anything with Jeremy Adams for a panel, and there was nothing on the schedule. And I struggled to make it through the day because of just energy and whatnot and the drive and I walked over 17,000 steps. It was a long day. And I had to take a break. So I took a break. My wife and I went out to the car for about a half an hour or so and just so I could rest a little bit. And I went back in and Jeremy Adams was in his booth and I was going to touch base with him a second time when it was quiet. Come to find out they did a Green Lantern panel and
Oh,
it was unscheduled. They announced it, but I wasn't in there at the time, so I didn't hear it. So I missed out on a Jeremy Adams Green Lantern panel. I could have asked some good questions. It would have been fun. Uh, so that's my terrific on horror story.
God. I wonder if he knows. He probably expected to see you there, and I bet you if you mentioned him that you
He
missed.
he did. When I got back and touched base with him after he got done, he goes, "Where were you?" And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Green Lantern panel." I go, like, "There's no panel on the schedule." He goes, "They announced it." And I was like, "Well, I wasn't in here. I was taking a nap in my car." So I felt awful. And he goes, "Well, we'll do it on the show." Like, okay, we'll have our, because I said, "What did you talk about?" He goes, "We'll talk about it on the show." He did tell me, and I couldn't say anything, and it's now since been announced that he is off the Green Lantern Corps book after I think issue 7 or issue 8. Issue 8 is his last issue. That it's going to be all Morgan Hampton at that point.
Wonderful.
He um he indicated maybe a little bit of a sense of relief. Not that he said anything, but I could kind of just sense a little bit of relief in his voice. I think trying to manage it all has been, he hasn't been able to plot things out the way he necessarily would want to. And with some things coming off of his plate, it'll be better. He also made a statement, and when we get him on the show, I'm gonna ask him more about it. But he said he tried to get himself off the Green Lantern book.
Really?
And I think it was the comment he made to me was that he didn't want it to be a situation like The Flash, where he was told he was off the book and it really hurt him a little bit emotionally.
Yeah.
It kind of hurt his feelings, and he didn't want to be in a situation. So he's like, I'm going to get myself off the book before they get me off the book. And they basically said, no dice, we want you on here. So that's a good thing. He's hoping for a long run. So
That would be nice. I mean, he is writing Aquaman too, so I
yeah.
mean, he's busy, and he's that title's good also. So,
And I think he's going to be wrapping up his work on Flash Gordon because he's now DC exclusive. So I think that part's going away too. So I think he will be just focusing on DC work for the near future.
well, he's going to be writing that if it continues.
Oh, and I forgot to show you the one other thing I got. Kevin McGuire got a
Oh,
print of Guy Gardner.
that's awesome looking.
Yeah.
You
They
know,
had the go ahead.
you can't unsee Nathan Fillion anymore, right? I mean, when you see Guy Gardner now, like every time you see Guy Gardner, I'm seeing Nathan Fillion now all the time.
He had it was interesting. He had another print that was the infamous One Punch. And I was going to do that one, but I thought, I wanted something more heroic. So I ended up getting this one instead. But good show. If you ever get a chance to go to Terrificon, it's in Connecticut. It's a great show. To me, it's I've never been to New York Comic Con, but I really like this show. This is my third time going, and it's becoming my favorite. I like this one. I like Baltimore Comic Con. I kind of got turned off to New York Comic Con when they started doing quizzes to make sure to prove you were a fan to get a ticket. I'm like, that's with that.
Right.
But anyway, we've got a couple books to talk about. We're going to talk about Green Lantern Corps number 7 and Green Lantern 26. So why don't you and I take a quick pause, we'll come back, and we'll jump into Green Lantern Corps number 7.
That was great.
Your brightest day or blackest night, there's only one place to listen to the best in Green Lantern. That's the podcast of Oa.
Green Lantern Corps number 7. Adams and Hampton with Fernando Pazarin as art. I loved the cover, was really neat. and with Green Lantern Corps number 26, they're interlocking covers. Great cover art by Viken Marion. Viken Marion is a somewhat of a local boy for me. He grew up about an hour from where I live. So I've never interacted with him. I may be talking to him soon and trying to line up an interview with him as well. But we'll see about that. But I love the cover, and I don't have a physical copy of Green Lantern number 26. My shop did not get their books, so I don't have them to put up side by side. But what a neat piece of artwork put together like that.
Yeah, it's
Cool
clean.
stuff.
Even Sorrow Lantern looks pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. So Green Lantern Corps number 7, you and I think when we started talking in the last episode about the Starbreaker Supremacy, how it didn't feel like there was really a sense of scale, or it didn't feel like it was an epic story, or the stakes weren't very high. I think
Loki.
the first few pages of this issue kind of really elevate the stakes a little bit. The we see this planet called Farengale, and all the emotions been kind of wiped out, so they don't sense the impending doom. And we see how the entire planet's energy is absorbed by one of the Starbreakers. These are adult Sun Eaters. So remember Final Night and the Sun Eater, which our heroes could not take out. These are adult versions of those. And every time they do this, every time they devour something, they're able to go from their plane of existence to from where they are to our plane of existence. So if you think about the stakes, as this moves on, you're bringing more and more adult Sun Eaters into our universe. And boy, the potential there is, talk about the stakes being raised. This does raise the
Right.
stakes quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's a cool shot with him sucking the life out of the planet.
Yeah, yeah. I thought one of the things I thought that was really strong about this particular issue is this next couple of pages with John Stewart. With John being kind of devoid of emotions, he can really talk about things kind of matter of factly. And so when his power ring shows up and is trying to talk to him as his mother, he's coming right out and saying, you're just a ring. At the end of the day, that this was done as he doesn't come out and say it's a coping mechanism, but that's what it is. It's a method of him coping with the loss of his mother. And he even says that nobody challenged me because they were afraid that the truth was too much for me to handle. I thought, but that's a moment of clarity that is really good for the character, because we don't see that often. Everything is very shielded and guarded, and that's why so many of us, myself included, often look at John as kind of a not a very interesting character, because everything is so guarded all the time. And here's John with no guard whatsoever. It's an honest conversation with himself. So I thought that was really a good strong scene.
Especially I mean, like you said, he's not one-dimensional anymore. I mean, he's been written with more depth lately. I mean, to put it in perspective, the other run before it, I mean, I think he's grown more in the issues I've seen him in with this run than he has with the prior run.
Yeah, yeah. I love the irony that with all of the organic beings, all the sentient beings being basically emotionless at this point, that it's Jade Stone and John's Power Ring and Aya who are the ones that are like, we need these guys to get their emotion back. They realize the value of emotion. I just thought that was really kind of funny, and I loved Guy being now the rational one. Now that he doesn't have all the bravado and all of the character flaws in the forefront. That he's calmer than he's ever been. It's a very much an alien version of Guy, which I thought was kind of comical.
And then
Um,
what about Al just kind of sitting there chilling?
yeah, I think there's one scene I was hoping to see was, and again, this only resonates for people who watch Green Lantern the animated series, and if you haven't, shame on you, you should watch it. It's awesome. But I kind of remember. Do you remember in the finale of Green Lantern the animated series in the episode Dark Matter? It was the last episode where Aya is about to rewrite history, and Hal is there and tells her that she's not just a machine, and that she has emotion, and that it's real. She's a biologic, and that she's made from basically a piece of ion, for lack of anything else. So I kind of wanted to see, like, we have yet to see an Aya Hal Jordan interaction yet. because just as she gets there and is recognized, all the emotions are gone. But I would have loved to have seen a reciprocal scene here where she's having that conversation with Hal. And I realize that relies on you having watched the animated series, but it still would have made sense for there to be some interaction. I thought that would have been awesome.
Well, to be fair, if you're going to incorporate this character into your story arc, you should familiarize yourself with the content material. So, I mean, you need to watch it and see how she developed through those writers. Well, obviously through the same writers, but anyway, and at least know where you're going to go with her. But I get what you're saying, you know.
Yeah, I think it would have been a good scene. I understand why they didn't do it in the core book because this is more of a core book and not a Hal book. But at the same time, he's in the book. Uh, right now, for this event, they're kind of crossed over pretty heavy. Uh, I thought it was interesting too that we see Nathan as being powerless himself because without the emotions, he's got nothing there either. So it's impacting not just the lanterns and everybody else, but even the I don't want to say heralds, but even the allies of the Starbreakers are impacted by this.
And you think Jadestone's going to be a mainstay, huh?
It feels that way, doesn't it? And I'm okay with that. I'm down with that. And I don't see Jadestone being a major character, but I see him being an ongoing character. I think, when we look back at the Johns era, there were so many characters that were created that became mainstays, and we've seen other characters become fan favorites. And I think Jadestone is on his way to becoming a fan favorite.
Reminds me of a male version of Boudica. Remember Boudica?
Yeah, especially after they did the whole honor guard lantern thing.
Yeah.
Very much so. I thought it was neat to see them explore a little bit more about Lights Out and the whole thing with Relic and how they tied this in. I think Jeremy Adams is doing really kind of a neat job about, and Morgan Hampton's, I know his name is on the book too, but I'm pretty sure a lot of this is coming from Jeremy. Uh, that he's pulling some of these other elements out that maybe weren't the most popular things, but he's finding a way to use them to tell the story. And so, this whole thing with Kyle and his time on the other side of the source wall and how he got back over uh, comes into play here. And the whole thing with what happened with the emotional entities. They've sensed that the entities are on the other side of the source wall. And, if we remember back to Lights Out, the entities went into the source wall. That was how they partially got Relic in there. At the time, Parallax was not one of the entities that went through the source wall. Back in the day, he was still merged with Sinestro. So all of the rest of them but Parallax merged with the source wall.
So that means the parallax is still out there somewhere.
Well, yeah, and as we're reading this issue, that's the thing that comes to mind is when you see the fact that they go through the source, they're going to go through the source wall, and when they go through, Parallax is there. That's the first head scratcher, right? Is how did he get here?
Yeah.
Um, and that gets answered when we get to Green Lantern 26. In a way, it's answered. There's parts of it that still don't quite line up, and we'll talk a little bit about Parallax when we get to this next issue. But I thought this was maybe the strongest issue of the Green Lantern Corps series so far.
So far, I've liked it. I think it's been, I mean, I liked it in a sense that it's a good book, but I wish there'd be more alien lanterns in it. You know,
Right, right.
I wish it,
That's been the fear, right?
I mean, if this ends and that's fine and the core gets reset or reestablished and you start doing that, I think that would be beneficial to the book. That way you can move past its development, and then expand out, so to speak.
Right. It's like how do you do it? Because I think every character is somebody's favorite, right? So how do you honor those characters? DC has made this, they've poorly managed the franchise because they've flooded it with different characters that are all human, pushed the alien characters, which in my opinion are far more interesting than most of the human ones, push them to the back, and now you've got to deal with dueling fan bases. Everybody's fighting to see their, I don't, not literally fighting, but everybody wants to see their characters. And so you're trying to make everybody happy as the writer of these books. How do you do that
Well, I
with
could
so
see
many
when
characters?
I don't like when they start splitting them up and throwing them in other books for fillers, like
Yeah.
Crew over in Justice League and And you start throwing and you start doing that, that's all well and good, but I mean, to me, I don't think that works well. Not with the Lantern Corps. I mean,
Right.
Green
It,
Lantern
it
Corps for a reason,
it doesn't serve the characters and it doesn't serve your readership. And it further divides the readership up into groups. And we've already got a lot of divisive groups of fans. And, this doesn't make it any better. And you know, I've mentioned it a couple times before on the show. You and I, neither one of us cared for the Jeff Thorne run,
right?
cared even less for the person who wrote it. But the one thing I do give him credit for is that he saw the problem and had some ideas on how to fix it. And they may not have been very popular ideas. I mean, he was going to put Kelly in the coma and kind of leave her there. He had some ideas for Kyle that were going to take him off the page. He made Jessica a Yellow Lantern, which I thought was an interesting choice and could very well have been something for her as an identity that could have been very interesting going forward, much like Guy's run as a Red Lantern. So I think there were some interesting ideas there that could have panned out. Simon wasn't going to be powered up anymore as a Green Lantern. He was going to be that, he had the ability to talk to the dead and whatnot. So I think there were some interesting ideas there and disagree as much as I do with his overall writing and as a lot of his opinions. I do think that he had some good ideas about what he was going to do with the cast of characters. But DC has got themselves in this quandary, and I don't know how they get out of it easy, and I really don't. But
Well, you said, well, I guess it depends on how long they're going to continue on this title. If is this just a title, or how many issues is this going to go for?
right, right. But I
So,
think anytime you do a Green Lantern project, the thing people are going to be waiting for is who are you using,
yeah,
right?
right.
And now you've got Justice League. Is it Justice League Red? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
You've
all
got
right.
Simon over in that book
My,
now.
my book, and then you got her in Unlimited. Jessica's in Unlimited, which I haven't read.
She hasn't been in it. I flipped through it. Jessica has not been in Unlimited hardly at all.
No, okay, well,
I've seen Hal and Carol show up more than anybody else.
okay, well, that's interesting. I thought she was supposed to be the title character in that.
Nope, not
Okay,
at
well,
all. Not at
okay,
all. So anyway, let's pivot to Green Lantern 26.
okay.
Um, so let's talk about Parallax a little bit. The last time we saw Parallax, and it gets a little muddy, of course. Back during the Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps days, back during the Robert Venditti run, there was a time when Parallax showed up in the Superman series, and that remember that Parallax was bonded with Sinestro. They get separated, and Sinestro is trying to um, get Parallax back to gain control of him and imprison him again, so that he could basically control Parallax and use Parallax's power to his advantage. Parallax went to Earth and was impacting children in Smallville, trying to get more fear generated. Basically, Parallax was starving. There wasn't enough fear in the universe. Superman interacts with it. There's a whole plot line with Superman and Sinestro interacting with each other. And it ends up in Superman number 40, with Superman trapping Parallax in a Sinestro Corps power ring with the intent to give it to Hal to give back to the Green Lantern Corps and imprison Parallax once again. And that was Parallax's biggest fear, was being imprisoned. Jump to Hal Jordan in the Green Lantern Corps number 30. Hal's on Earth. He meets up with Superman. Superman gives him the ring. And then there's another plot with Hector Hammond. And Hector Hammond, once Hal gets the ring, Hector Hammond messes with Hal's mind from afar and makes him think that Superman is infected with Parallax and that the whole thing was a trick. So Hal fights Superman, who he sees is Parallax. And there's a fight, and eventually that fight resolves itself. He realizes that Hector Hammond is around and is the one behind it all, and Superman and Hal go fight Hector. Hal takes the power ring and puts it in a pocket dimension with every intent to give it to Mogo. That plot thread, as far as I know, never got followed up on.
Huh.
When Hal goes back to Mogo and the Green Lantern Corps, There's no mention that I can recall. And if anybody out there has seen it or read it somewhere, let us know. But as far as I know, that plot line was never followed up on. So as far as we know, Parallax is still imprisoned in a ring in a pocket dimension where Hal put him. There was an issue of the Thorn run. It was issue 5, where Kelly goes to Korgar, and you see what you think is Parallax, but there's no confirmation it is Parallax. It could very well have just been a construct because it doesn't talk. So I'm of the impression that Parallax is still there. But when we get to Green Lantern 26, Jessica says that Parallax is dead. And the emotional entities say, we recreated him here out of our own fear. So this is Parallax 2.0 essentially. And I suppose in my head canon, I could think that with Parallax trapped in a ring in a pocket dimension, maybe he starved to death. Does that make sense?
I mean, how would Jessica know that he's dead?
Right, right.
I
Maybe
mean,
maybe with her times in the Sinestro Corps, she sensed it because that took place after that whole thing happened.
I mean, like I said, if you're a writer and you're gonna make a claim like that, then you got to have some kind of backstory to. I mean, she had to have heard or something. Well, who would have told her? She's running the Corps now.
Right, right. But maybe back during the Thorn run when she was in the Sinestro Corps, maybe she found out in her interactions with the Sinestro Corps. That's the headcanon I'm going to tell myself. It's not being played out on the page.
I mean, it works.
It works. It works. So that's what I'm telling myself. This issue to me flew by very fast. This was very much a middle chapter where a lot of stuff starts to happen. I was singing the praises of V. Ken Marion on the cover art. The interiors here really lost me.
Can't do it, man. I'm just not big into that.
I don't want. I'm not an anime fan, so I don't get that start of that style of animation and drawing. That's what I got a lot of out of it, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just my bad take on it all. But I much prefer Zamonico and Pazarin and some of these other guys. I prefer stuff that's much more realistic looking than this very hyper stylized design look. So it kind of took me out a little bit of this issue.
I had to read past it. I
Yeah,
couldn't texting you about it. I just kept thinking to myself, "Oh man, this is just not good to look at." I mean, I don't like
right.
being
Yeah.
mean like that to artists, and I know they put a lot of work into this, and I'm not trying to criticize him as a.
No, no.
I
It's just
mean,
not a style that appeals to me. It's not bad art. It's just
art is art. I mean, it's all about what we
yeah,
like, and all I can say is, yeah, I'm not feeling this art. Not for the book anyway. It's not what I
right.
book to expect to see out of this kind of book. But I don't know. I don't know what other titles is this guy on.
I do not know. I do not know. He's a very nice guy, but and I love some of his cover work. It's like, I mean, these two interlocking covers are beautiful.
I don't understand why it's so different on the inside.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It didn't resonate for me. And like you said, you have to kind of read past it.
You know?
Then I ended up like I'm reading and I'm not paying attention to what's going on visually. And there were some good things here. There was the scene where Hal chops off the hand of Starbreaker with the sword. That was cool.
It was
Cool
cool.
idea.
Kind of
Uh,
Game of Thrones-ish.
but it overall didn't get to me. What do you think about the Kelly Quintella scene with Simon Baz when Simon goes back to his car to work on it and she's muttering her to herself and her eyes are turned white and she's talking about getting a body and she kind of attacks him. It's glossed over really quickly. We skip it. We don't go back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's all. But you are, and that's all she says.
Yeah. I still think it's Krona. In my mind, it's Krona, but I think that's the popular consensus of things because Krona, the last time we saw Krona was in Green Lantern number 67. It was part of the Johns run. And it was when Krona he had more of the Guardian look again, and Hal killed him. And that was when Hal got kicked out of the Corps by the Guardians for treason because he killed a Guardian, even though it was Krona. I think that was War of the Green Lanterns, if I remember right. And we saw after that, Atrocitus had Krona's body, and he talked to it, which was really creepy.
I don't remember this at all.
Atrocitus was talking to Krona's body and it disappeared. So Atrocitus thought Krona was still alive. When he showed up again, it was Krona's body, but he was possessed by a demonic force called Abysmus. And Abysmus was, I mean, if you remember, Atrocitus goes way back to the whole Tigers story.
Mhm.
He was not seen, but he was one of the five inversions. He was with the five inversions in that story. We just didn't see him. He was off panel. He was practicing, blood magic and those kinds of things. And Abysmus was a demon that he summoned. And so the demon was getting back at him for being summoned by taking over the body of Krona.
Huh.
Now, Krona appeared again later in the Lost Army miniseries, but this was more back to the Malthusian look, the taller version of the Guardians before they became the Guardians. And this was when they were talking about the Green Lanterns time traveling and traveling to different dimensions. So that wasn't air quote our Krona. So we really haven't seen Krona since Green Lantern 67. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, Hal destroyed the body, but did he destroy his essence? This is a Guardian we're talking about. Has he been floating out there somewhere bodiless?
Well, not only that, we've always talked about how the gauntlet looks like his gauntlet,
Right, right. And is the fact that she's wearing what looks like a version of the gauntlet, did he somehow imbue part of his? Are you a Star Trek fan?
No. Well, a little bit, yeah. Not the movies, let's put it that way.
Okay, well, this goes to the movies. Do you remember when Spock died in Wrath of Khan?
Yes, I do.
And do you remember when
Yeah.
they brought him back in Star Trek 3
Huh?
and Spock planted a little bit of his essence in McCoy,
Right, right, right.
his Katra? Well, did much like that, or much like how in the Harry Potter books, they used Horcruxes to have sections of the big bad's essences in it. Was somehow that gauntlet imbued with Krona's essence? Is that how he's surviving?
It would be nice if they played that out a little bit further, even to the extent where it is Krona and she just disappears because it's Krona the whole time. Right? And then we don't have Keely anymore, or whatever her name is. Right? He can
Who?
just appear and then Kelly just goes away, right? And it's Krona the whole time. Now we don't
Yeah,
have,
yeah, that could happen. I can see that happening.
and I like that because then you take another lantern off the table, right? You don't have to worry about this lantern anymore.
Right, right. I don't see Jeremy Adams doing that. He's too much of the nice guy that he
Yeah.
wouldn't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah.
But it'd be a way to do it, to have Kelly essentially become to Krona to eventually possess her body and her body dies as a result or something. But
Yeah,
I
just
could see it either as
comes out.
Krona doing the Voldemort thing and imbuing his essence in that gauntlet many years ago, or I could see Krona's essence floating about there without his body and finding his way back and being drawn to Kelly because of the gauntlet.
Right.
I could see it either way, so both of those things work for me.
I do like the idea of it being him.
Yeah, I do too. I think there's some interesting potential there. I could totally see it, and I can see
I
why
personally,
it's a popular choice.
I miss the Guardians. I wish they were still around, you know.
Well, they are, but they're not. They don't remember enough. You know what I mean? They're not the same Guardians we're used to.
I miss the old Guardians. I kind of like those guys, but
As much as I loved the Johns run, that was one of the things I did not like about the Johns run was what he did with the Guardians. I didn't feel the need for them to turn evil once again or anything. I always liked the Guardians more when they were so evolved that they couldn't relate to humanity anymore and they couldn't relate to the emotions. They were so far above that. They had such a 10,000 million mile view
right,
that they didn't see the value of the death of someone is nothing compared to the death of millions, right?
right,
And they don't really, it is unless you're the one that one person or the family of that one person, right? And so I always liked that dynamic because Hal was always that person who was the foil to that to remind them of why it is important and would question their decisions often. That was always an interesting dynamic to me, and to see them as, I don't want to say misguided, but just detached.
sure.
But maybe we'll get them back at some point. Who knows? But I thought this book moved very fast with a lot of battle scenes. Uh, I guess the only qualms I had, if I'm going to nitpick, is how Hal knows that they're trying to be used by the emotional entities that they where did that come from? And the idea to cut off the hands. It just kind of came to him and he did it. And I kind of wanted a little more thought behind it. Not that we need to explain every little thing, but it's almost because it's out of the blue. You're trying to rationalize it. It's like it's the same reason why I don't like Sherlock Holmes. Like I like mysteries if I can figure out the mystery.
Right. I get it.
I don't like Sherlock Holmes. Well, he'll come up with some conclusion, and the clues aren't there. He then when he's explaining to you how he got to it, then the clues are revealed. Well, I want the clues there for me to be able to do it too. And if I don't get it, and Sherlock Holmes does, it's because he's Sherlock Holmes. The clues were there all along. I don't like this. Here's what you didn't know, wink, wink, kind of thing. So
Sure.
I think sometimes where if I'm critical of the Jeremy Adams run, it's in that the pacing is rushed to the point at which we don't get to see any of those layers. We're glossing over the layers because we're trying to get to point B too quickly. I'd like to see it maybe be a little more decompressed. Personal
But
opinion, personal preference.
that would extend out your run, right? Because
Yeah,
but which is beneficial for the writer because you get to write more and
right,
to it anyway.
right. I mean, when we get to talking about um, Absolute Green Lantern, that's my criticism of the book is the pacing. On the other end of the spectrum, it's way too slow for my liking. So I'm like, it's like I feel like with the Goldilocks and the Three Bears, this one's too fast, this one's too slow. Where can I get one that's just right? Uh, and
And
everybody's just right is different.
I haven't read any of that yet.
I've read it, and we'll get to it. Like I said, I don't want to take your opinion, but my biggest criticism of it is my biggest complaint about it is it's just the pacing is too slow. I think it will. That said, it will read better collected, or it'll read better in a bigger chunk.
Which is what I'm going to do all in one lump sum.
Yeah, I think that's the best reading experience for that book, just because you're not waiting 30 days to find out what happens next, and not enough happens in the span of those 20 some odd pages to make you feel like you got your money's worth.
Right.
And when you think about how much you're spending per issue, if you're 6 issues in and you've been spending, is it $5 an issue? I can't remember just now. It's $4 or $5 an issue. You're 6 issues in, you're $30 in, and I haven't got a story yet. I mean, I've got pieces of a story, but I don't have a complete story. I can go to the movies for that much and get in a complete story.
Well, that's why it's always, I thought, cheaper to do the collected.
Yeah, I
On
agree.
the back end, it's cheaper anyway.
And I've been buying it monthly in the floppy version, but I kind of wish I had trade weighted.
It's different because runs on a different calendar. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
You gotta wait. Like for us to read this collected, I mean, we wouldn't be able to do it any justice because I mean, hell, we have one episode a year. All right, let's talk about the 12 issue, volume one.
Right, right. Right, right. About the rate we're going, that's what it's going to be anyway, right? But I thought this was a really good issue. And like I said, it moved very, very quickly. So it wasn't big on plot, it was more action. But I think when you combine that with the Green Lantern Corps issue and you look at them together, it works really well together.
And we got Kyle back as a White Lantern
At least for the meantime, right?
briefly.
I heard some online criticism that boy, they got their emotions back rather quickly, but it got them back because they were on the other side of the source wall. They came back through the source wall and they saw their emotions, and I'm assuming that's because of the entities. Hal has a whole conversation with them about, we need to do work together. This needs to be a symbiotic relationship. So I think right now they're keeping the Green Lanterns and Star Sapphire and Sinestro together. Uh, what did you think about the fact? Let's see, I want to remember who's writing who when they came there. What a neat image, by the way, of them writing the entities coming through the wall. I thought that was really cool.
You're talking about with the shark and
Yeah, with Hal writing Ion and the Predator obviously's got Carol and so on. Watching Guy Gardner be writing the one for the compassion, the Indigo Tribes Avatar was interesting.
Look
Made
what
Go
he's
ahead.
got this up, you know. You see that?
Yeah,
That's what hand signal he's got up. I don't know if you can zoom in on it. You can zoom in on it on digital. But yeah, look, that's what hand symbol he's got going on.
yeah, I thought it was funny.
Classic guy.
Yeah, it was neat. Yeah, but you seeing Kyle in the white again, you kind of wonder when this is over, is he going to get to stay that way?
Well, I'd imagine that has a lot to do with the emotions and keeping things in check,
Yeah,
you know. And now they're going to take it to the Starbreaker core, so I guess they're going to go to that. What was that planet called? Crap, I forgot.
I don't remember just
It was
now.
in it was in the last issue. It was in the core book.
Yeah, I thought it was neat that Aya and Razor were on Adara together.
Yeah, here it is. The Castle of the Desolate Stone.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Awesome. Can't wait to see Brawl there.
I thought it was interesting that Carol got to keep the Star Sapphire logo when she rode through on the Predator, and everybody else had a Green Lantern logo on the side of the entity instead of their respective logos.
Oh yeah, that's true. Hey, did you know something about Kyle when he turned when he was getting ready to turn? He had his symbol on his chest, but he also had Ion on his shoulder.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I don't know whether that's just an art slip up or what. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that he had the Iron logo, that other stylized logo on his shoulder, because I don't remember seeing that before.
I used to have a cool Kyle Rayner shirt that had that logo. It was a green one, and it was on that side right there. I was miss that shirt, order another one.
I like the idea of Kyle staying the White Lantern. I just think it because there's only I know they did a White Lantern Corps, but I like the idea of him being the sole White Lantern because it plays back to when he was the sole Green Lantern. I think he works best when he's unique.
I think it'd be a cool team up with him and Swamp Thing.
Oh yeah, that would be neat. That would be cool.
White Lantern and Green Thing and Swamp Thing. That'd be kind of fun.
I didn't see who was writing. I was trying to think of who's writing the Orange Lantern, the snake.
Hold on.
I can't see it in my because I don't have the copy and my digital version is not very good.
Hold on, I'm gonna look. Talking about
My
when they come through the wall.
Yeah, my eyes are even worse. I don't think you can see. I think it's far enough in the back that you really can't see who it is.
It, yeah, I can't tell who that is at all. You know who it looks like? Joe Mullane, but that's only because it looks like her glasses that she's wearing.
Well, it
Those,
could be. It very well could be because it looks like Jessica and Kilowog are on Parallax, and Sinestro is on the Red Bull, the Butcher. Which is funny. I kind of thought maybe Guy would be on the Butcher because of his time as a Red Lantern, and that Sinestro would be back on Parallax.
I mean, Sinestro was confusing me because I don't know when and where that everybody decided to make him a chump, but he doesn't. He's not. He's not like Sinestro Corps War Sinestro anymore, right?
No, definitely he's been de-elevated a little bit. He's declined a little bit.
But, I mean, he used to be a top tier villain. Now he's like, okay, in the core, chugging along, barely has a line or two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I miss that. I hope they do some of that. I hope they do something with that in Saronic, not to, or at least explain where she's at.
Sonic Natu is the big gaping hole in all of this, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't ask him about that when you're at Terrificon, did you?
I kind of alluded to it, but
Well, it is what it is.
yeah. When we have him on the show, we'll make sure to bring it up.
Put him on the spot. So next up, Starbreaker Core.
So it's definitely heating up. I think we've got two more. Is it two more issues of this? I think that are tied to this overall event.
Well, the core book will be the when they take it to home field.
Yeah. All right, well, we've got some listener feedback. We got a lot to catch up on there. So why don't we take a quick break, come back, and we'll listen to what you guys have to say. Thanks.
This is Salak, Green Lantern of Sector 1418, and you are receiving the podcast of Oa.
The podcast of
Our first message is from a new listener, Ganderstein3426. Transmitting message in 3, 2, 1.
It's great to find other Green Lantern fans like myself. Thanks for your work, guys.
All right. Ganderstein 3426. It's great to find other Lantern fans like myself. Thank for your work, guys. Well, we appreciate you. This is obviously a new listener because I don't think we've seen this guy come across our listener feedback before. So hats off to you for finding us, or finding Myron and me along with it.
Yeah, welcome to the core. I mean, this was a comment on our YouTube video, so of the last episode. So it's always good to find new listeners and have people discover us for the first time. You've been doing this for almost 15 years, and so it's sometimes surprising when you think you've saturated the market in terms of the depth of your reach of where you're going to go, and then you find people that have discovered you for the first time, which is great. So I hope you listen to some of the back content if you find it of any interest and value to yourself, and I hope you stick around.
Definitely give the listen on the animated series. That's one of your highlights.
Phil started with the episode when they announced the Green Lantern animated series was canceled, and I had been so careful about being family friendly, and that news came out, and I was not happy.
He can do better, right? Ganderstein can watch, or they can watch the animated series and then listen to that episode right afterwards and see if they feel the same way.
It was not my greatest moment, that's for sure, but it certainly was a passionate one. Power Ring, go ahead and give us the next one.
We have a comment from JP Roca about the new Superman movie and the Jeremy Adams run. Transmitting in 3, 2, 1.
Myron, it is so hard to not like this Superman, but like Adam's run. I thought the same thing about the Carol and John interaction. I hope you brought it up at Terrificon.
Hey, JP, thanks for your comment. I'm not finding it too terribly difficult. And I don't want to say I didn't like Superman. It was okay. There were things that really I had a hard time with. I have found less things to have a hard time with about the Adams run. Is it perfect? No, but I haven't read a run yet ever that's been perfect.
It's a high bar.
What's that?
It's a high bar to reach perfect. And not only that, look what you got to juxtapose it with, right? I mean, okay, well, what was the last perfect comic that Blackest Night? That's the last perfect event. If you even want to call it perfect, though,
Yeah.
it's not easy to do a perfect run. I don't think there's a writer out there that could.
DC: The New Frontier is a perfect book.
I mean, perfect book though. Run's different, but
Yeah.
it's a perfect book. I mean, it is good. There's no doubt.
I mean, I bought it now for I think the fourth time.
I mean, I got this version. I got the hardcover.
Oh, the absolute version is great. Is that the absolute edition?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Happy to spend the money on this guy.
I have the absolute edition, and I have a Darwin Quick sketch on the inside.
The guy had some art, man. It was just good art.
He was such an awesome guy. I really wish that DC would have let him run with some things because that story of DC New Frontier was so successful and so critically and commercially successful that DC couldn't see him doing anything but retro stuff.
Yeah.
And he had some really good ideas about the DC universe. I would love to have seen him given a corner of the DC universe for himself, even if it was his own Earth. I mean, there's a JL New Frontier is one of the Earths in the multiverse. Even if it was that, I'd have been happy. But they just wanted to pigeonhole him as doing retro flashback stuff. And I think he had a lot more to offer. To me, that's one of the great shames of the Didio era is not seeing him get more work.
Couldn't agree more.
I did bring up the Carol and John interaction with Jeremy Adams at Terrificon. I think I mentioned earlier. I don't know whether he really. I didn't get a real good feel for whether he understood or acknowledged it. But it's again another question I'd like to bring up when he's on. Is was he aware of it? He did make a comment that he finds writing Green Lantern somewhat times difficult because he doesn't know all the lore, and he nor can he read 60 years worth of comics, right?
Right.
So he's at a disadvantage. And that's sometimes when the freedom of writing an animated movie or the animated series, the freedom is they are based on the written works, but you have some creative liberty. Here, you're kind of tied to 60 years of continuity to some degree. And it's harder for a writer to do some things inside of that continuity, especially a continuity which isn't perfect. That makes it even harder because which parts do you acknowledge? Which parts don't you use?
And not only that, but if you look at yourself and look at myself, right? I'm, in our age, and juxtapose that next to how long Green Lantern's been out, but then you juxtapose that to how old Jeremy Adams is. Well, I mean, look at your source material. Look at the depth of your source material, right? It would be like if
Right.
we call you up and said, "Hey, Myron, I got a problem with continuity. What do I do about this?" Well, go back to when you were talking about the Sinestro thing, the parallax thing,
Right.
source wall, right?
Hey, I'd be down for that.
I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, a good writer is going to find sources where they can. But of course, I don't know, sometimes you kind of hamstring yourself because then you're stuck on past, right?
Right. I kind of
Mm,
wish the writers of Lanterns would contact me about
something.
being a consultant.
Some,
Oh, I gotta tell you, I didn't mention this earlier when we were talking about Terrificon. Um, oh, sorry for snorting. Jeremy Adams was right next to Tom King. They didn't share a table, but their tables were next to each other, and Tom King was on the right side of his table, and Jeremy Adams was on the left end of his table, so they were near each other. And so I was talking to Jeremy Adams, and I kind of raised my voice a little bit because Tom King was sitting there, and I said, "Jeremy, did you know I got a leak of the first image of Kyle Chandler in his Green Lantern uniform from Lanterns?" And I saw some side eye from Tom King. And I showed him that AI image, which I'll throw again up on the screen, of of Kyle Chandler in the Green Lantern outfit and a walker. And Jeremy Adams just bust out laughing about it. And and I don't know. I gotta ask Jeremy Adams when we get him on the show if Tom King actually said anything to him or not afterwards. It was kind of funny because I just saw the side eye. I'm like, okay, did I get his attention? Or was he just glancing my way? He could have just been glancing my way, but I'm like, I wonder if I got his attention and he wanted to know what it was.
I guarantee you asked him who you were afterwards. Who's that guy? What do you want to show you? Yeah.
But
Tom King. Mm.
all right, Power Rank, give us the next message.
The next comment is from World at War Comics about the upcoming My Adventures with Green Lantern animated series. Playing in 3, 2, 1.
Finally get something that focuses on Jessica. And the creators have never read a title with her. It sounds like maybe it is a kid's show, but still.
World at War, Danny. Hey, listen, you're right, because that's how they always treat Jessica. They're just going to glaze over all that, right? They're probably just going to rewrite her whole story. However, that being said, her being a high school kid, that would be an easy place to explore her anxiety, which is, I think, part and parcel to what she is as a character. But, it is something that teens go through. So it could be an exploratory point, but I don't know how in depth the writing's going to be on New Adventures of Green Lantern.
I mean, surely is not going to be the PTSD that Jessica experienced in the comics, where
Right.
her friends were all murdered and stuff. It's not going to be
True.
that. It's going to be much more driven for the youth market.
Right.
But I think again, it's one of those. It's a departure from what fans know. Are her fans going to be happy with it? I heard some Jessica fans were not happy with how she was portrayed in Superhero High School or Superhero Girls or whatever that was called.
That was ridiculous. I watched one episode of that and I hated myself for watching one episode of that.
Did you get PTSD from it?
Random stuff. Just I'll give it a try, but I was terrible. Oh,
I did not like the animated movie they did with her either. The Secret Six, whatever was that what it was called? I can't remember. I thought
that
it
was
was awful.
No, they
I
didn't.
thought it was bad fan fiction, horrible stuff. But yeah, it's one of those things where what will happen is because this media version of Green Lantern will be seen by the masses, will form in their head that this is what the character's about. So then when if they go to look at the source material, they're not going to find anything that's even close. I think that's what we're running into with the whole John Stewart thing is that people see it being him being the character from the animated cartoon, the Justice League animated series, and then they get to the comics and he's not really that character. And then the comics morph the character to be what they're like in this multimedia presentation. So does Jessica appearing in this, if it becomes successful, will that change her character? Will she no longer be the Jessica that people liked and become the Jessica that's been put out in the animated version? I don't know. I guess I don't see what the problem was with using the source material as the source material, not just the inspiration. And I'm going to grab this concept and this character and do what I want with it and call it my own thing. There's a reason why they were successful and why there's a fan base in the first place. If it's more than just appealing to a demographic, right?
Right. Exactly. You're not
All
wrong.
right. Powering, go ahead and give us the next one.
We have some comments from Temple 277 next. He's commenting on several topics. Transmitting in 3, 2, 1.
Y'all also either skipped or that news wasn't out at the time of this recording. On the My Adventures with GL News where they say Kor's gone with Kilowog being only one left presumably, Jessica will be Kyle Rayner's love interest. Just sounds awful in my opinion. Lanterns I will give a shot just for having Hal there at all despite my big skepticism for it. But my WGL, I have no reason to watch LMAO. I agree with Myron about Absolute Green Lantern. It just feels like nothing is going on, and the way they write Hal reminds me of Earth 3 Hal from Forever Evil, which I'm not big on. Can't wait for this event to end because it seems like from number 28 onward we'll have, can't believe I'm saying this, more grounded GL stories with Hal and Carol, hyped for hard-traveling heroes in number 29 as well. I dislike the current GLC, and I don't like how I gotta read that to understand this event. It worked with Sinestro Corps War because GLC book was good, but this ain't it in my opinion. The Villains of Sorrow and Starbreaker also aren't good either, but the Hal stuff and his banter with Carol makes up for it. That's why I'm hyped for his GL run past this event because it's mostly going to be just Hal, his villains, and Carol. But yeah, hyped for the Adams interview that was teased on the Facebook group. Curious to hear what Adams has to say about the current series.
Hey, Temple 277, thanks again for reaching out. Good to hear from you. Yeah, you're right. We didn't skip out on it. It was a case of it came out, the news about my adventures with Green Lantern and Kyle came out after we recorded, but before it was released. And that was because I didn't get the episode out in a timely manner. That's all on me. And I'm glad you're seeing the same thing with Absolute Green Lantern. Uh, it, I'm waiting to see what they do with it. It's moving too slow, and I think it hurts the book if people jump off of it because it's not moving quick enough. Is that going to hinder it? And as far as whether do I like it or not, I'm not sure. I'm ambivalent about it right now, but we'll see. We'll see. And Temple's interested in what's going to happen after this event. I think no matter what happens, no matter what creator we get on Green Lantern, I think it's going to be hard to get out from behind the shadow of what's happened in the past and how successful it was. Because everything we do is being compared to the Jeff Johns run. Everything we read. It's just like, you and I were talking in the last episode about the Superman movie. Everything about that movie or any Superman movie or appearance is going to be compared back to 78 Superman because it was such a cultural touchstone. And when you look at the Jeff Johns run, that was the zenith of Green Lantern's commercial and critical success. Everything's going to get compared to that, and there's no escaping that. There just isn't. And I don't think any writer can live up to that at this point because they're not going to have the ability to plan it out. They're also not going to start with such a basic. Green Lantern at that time was such a place that you could do anything with it. It had declined in popularity. The core wasn't back. You were almost starting out at ground zero again. Anybody writer who inherits it now, you're starting out at the penthouse.
I mean, you are.
How
I
do you
mean,
go up from that?
and think about how much it exploded when Blackest Night came out, right? I mean,
Right.
you're talking about going from like Abyss to like having all these tendrils coming out with all these different stories you could do. That's why all those books came out with like the Red Lantern Corps book
Right.
and
We had 5 ongoing books and they were all completely different.
because they all spawned from one big gigantic event. And of course, sure, I understand it loses popularity, but I don't understand why they can't tap into that same mantra again. There's plenty still there. I bet
Yeah.
you we could reread it and pick apart something that could easily turn into something big.
It's interesting to remember back 2009-ish. Green Lantern was so popular that when you would go to conventions, it was hard not to see Green Lantern characters
Yeah.
or Blackest Night versions of characters from that event. It was that big. It was just absolutely huge to see people dressing up as Indigo Corps. I mean, who'd have thought, right? In our wildest dreams as fans, you never would have expected to seen it as adopted as widely and as popular as it was during that era. It's crazy. It's the thing, you would never have prior to that hoped that Green Lantern would be that successful. I joke with my wife a little bit in that when I started building this this collection of stuff, it was so easy to be a completionist because there was so little to have to worry about. But then it got to a point where you can't keep up with it. I abandoned that whole thing. I wanted to be a completionist, and it's hard for me to abandon that. But it's like the reality is the fiscal and the physical limitations of trying to have all that stuff. It just doesn't happen. And for me, as I transition, as I'm getting to that final part of my life, you go from being young to wanting all this stuff to being in the middle where you're buying all the stuff, and now you're like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? And you start getting rid of it. And not that I've started getting rid of my stuff, but I've got totes of stuff that I can't display because I just don't have the physical room for it.
Right.
So do I buy more? The Green Lantern Funko Pop we talked about earlier. Well, I've got this one that just came out not too long ago, and I've got the Red Lantern version of Hal, and I've got 10 or 12 different Funko Pops. Do I need another Funko Pop?
You're gonna get it, and you're gonna show it to me on this camera.
It's awful. It's awful, right?
But it is. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like the Wonder Twins, right? I mean, because they don't make many action figures for the Wonder.
Right, right.
But no, you're right. I mean, it does consume a lot of time and a lot of space. I mean, I'm relegated to a small corner of our house. Now, my wife contends that she didn't force me to put my office down here, but there was no other place to go.
Right.
And my
Just
kid's playroom is like 20 feet from where I'm sitting, and it's a disaster.
jokingly, she claimed all the other rooms left you the only one left, right?
Like, well, you could have put the office upstairs. I'm like, well, yeah, because me and Myron are just gonna have a loud podcast where we're laughing and having a good time, and everybody's trying to sleep. That's okay. So I'm in the basement. That's where us guys go, right?
My house is very small and it's a 3 bedroom. And so this is one of the bedrooms. There's no other, there's no other room, but I can't make this room any bigger. This was my son's room. He, as an adult, is still living at home, has a smaller room, and I have the bigger room now. But I really have no more room to display anything. I've taken up pretty much every inch of wall space. I've got artwork, the disc plate that we got last episode that I got. I don't know where I'm going to put it yet because I don't have any wall space. I don't have a lot of wall space for. I got a Liam Sharp sketch and a couple of other pieces of artwork and commissions that I really don't have any wall space for. I may have to take down the Green Lantern movie banner that I have on the side wall here just to give myself some wall space.
I know. I brought home that big gigantic Superman poster. I mean, I think it was ginormous. Luckily, I got a big basement so I can hang it up on the wall, and it's huge. But I get it. You're right.
I forgot to ask you, did Clark like his little crypto?
He loved it.
Oh,
Actually, he
good.
sleeps with it all the time. He's got a spot where he puts it when he goes to bed.
Oh, cute, cute.
Yeah. He puts it with his little Minecraft creeper. We got him a stuffed Minecraft creeper. Kids are obsessed with Minecraft. And we got the Lego version of the Minecraft creeper. So that was fun to put together. But yeah, he loves it.
All right, well, Powering, why don't you give us the next message?
The next comment is from 3 Rick 527 who has some feedback about the new Superman movie. Transmitting in 3, 2, 1.
I think the Justice Gang killing was intentionally done to show the differences between other heroes like them and Superman, who cherishes all life and would never kill. But seeing those Justice Gang members killed didn't feel out of character to me, especially someone like Hawkgirl L, who I feel like has certainly killed in her past lives. And I'm pretty sure Guy has killed in the comics before too, and I think most Lanterns have. We all know John Stewart has killed, and we've literally seen how blow off the head of a member of the Sinestro Corps before, so Lantern's killing isn't anything new, and I won't be surprised if we see Hal and John kill in Lanterns as well. It doesn't make them any less of a hero, though, and the same could be said for characters like Iron Man and Captain America, who probably have killed hundreds of people even in the MCU, but at the end of the day, it's to protect innocent life, right?
All right. 3Rick527. You know what? That was one of my biggest complaints about people slinging mud at this movie was the killing aspect. First of all, you don't know for a fact anybody died, right? You can just assume that when Guy came through there with the flinging the tanks and stuff like that, that people died in that act, but you don't know that for sure. And I don't like how people just go with that, right? I mean, even with the Hawkgirl scene, I mean, that was fine. I mean, I thought it was a great scene. I don't have a problem with the killing aspect in regards to certain things when it comes to these movies. And you can't tell me that this doesn't happen all the time in Marvel. It's just not openly out there, right? You can't go through annihilating half a damn city without having at least a couple thousand casualties in the process.
Right. I know I take the opposing point of view. I think that I didn't like the killing stuff, and the difference in some of the things he brings up about things that happen in the comics and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, we know John Stewart is killed, and we saw Hal blow the head off a member of the Sinestro Corps. It's different in that situation because it's a war between equals. But when it's killing a kaiju who is really not intentionally doing anything, that's a problem.
Right.
And the guy Gardner flinging people, if he didn't kill him, he certainly maimed him. I think if he had put some mattress constructs to catch him, it might have been better. And yeah, they were soldiers, but and the Hawkgirl thing, she flew in and intentionally murdered a head of state. I have a problem with that. These are heroes. And we know that part of Superman's story is he's there to show us a better way. But if we're going to build a universe in which he's the Johnny come lately, he's only been there 3 years, the heroes should have already figured out a better way by now, or they wouldn't be heroes. They're not heroes.
Well, and to add to that, he tried to talk him into it.
Yeah, he did.
So,
And they blew him off.
right. They kind of did.
And Captain America and Iron Man did the exact same thing. I agree. They did hundreds of people. My biggest problem with Captain America was Marvel did such a great job with Steve Rogers. And the night before he becomes Captain America, I remember the scene clearly. He's talking to the doctor and the scientist and stuff that's going to make him Captain America. And he's like, well, I don't want to kill anybody. And the next day he's Captain America and he's running through the woods with a gun shooting Nazis. I was like, wow, you just, he throws one guy into a propeller and chops him up into a bunch of little pieces. It's one thing when it's equal footing and it's a hero and a villain and they're both in level playing field. It's another thing when it's a civilian, even though the civilian might be a soldier, it's a non-meta, non-superhero type character and a superhero. There's got to be another way. And
Collateral damage.
what's that? Well, I don't buy it. I just don't.
No, I get it. I totally get it. I mean, I'm not all in for it. I'm just, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
It doesn't bother you.
Right.
It bothers me. And the John Stewart, yeah, he's killed people. I mean, I had a real problem when he snapped Kurt's neck.
Right.
I didn't have so much of a problem when he killed Mogo because it was a situation where he didn't have another choice. But to each his own. We're all different, right? We all have different things and different expectations we bring to the characters and the superheroes. For me, superheroes have always been aspirational. So to me, I hold them to a higher standard. Some people don't do that. And that's fine. If you're fine with it, that's fine. It's not fine with me. I have a hard time with it. Again, it's one thing. I remember the scene intentionally where Hal blows the head off of a Sinestro Corps member. Was there another way out of it? There might have been. It was also a war. It was after the Guardians took the no kill restriction off the ring, and they were fighting for huge stakes. I find that different than flipping soldiers into the air and maiming and killing them, or throwing a guy in a propeller.
Don't forget the middle finger too, right?
Yeah, yeah, the middle finger thing. It was funny. It was cute. It was very guy thing to do. But anyway, let's
We
not
digress. Let's move on.
let's move on. Power Ring, give us the next one.
Our next piece of listener feedback is from Celtic 527, who is commenting on the current Green Lantern comics. Transmitting in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, Myron and Phil. Hope you both are doing well. I was really sorry to hear about your bad fall, Myron, but I hope you're feeling much better now. I wanted to give my updated thoughts on the Jeremy Adams Green Lantern run and the new Green Lantern Corps series. When I last wrote in, I had said Adams' run has been the most fun I've had reading GL comics in years, and I still do feel that way. However, I wasn't really a fan of the Kyle Rayner side story they've had going on, specifically the cast of characters they had him paired with. I have nothing against Superboy or the new character Odyssey, and I don't know much about Dan Garrett, but they all felt very out of place in the book to me, and I much rather would have seen them use other members of the GL Corps. Though in Adams' defense, I heard him say in an interview that it was his editor Paul Kaminsky that told him to do a B-plot storyline with Kyle, and he wanted him to include Superboy and initially Wonder Girl as well, which just seems like a strange choice to me. And while I sometimes feel like he throws in a lot of different characters in these issues, I do appreciate that Jeremy Adams has made the new Green Lantern book feel much more connected with the rest of the DC universe, and it's cool to see how interact with other DC heroes again. If I have any other real critique with the series, it's that the villains so far haven't been very strong to me. I think you both had mentioned last episode that you felt Starbreaker didn't feel very menacing and the overall threat doesn't feel as big as it should, and I couldn't agree more. I hope in the next story we get a great villain, whether it's a returning character or somebody new. I know they've been teasing that somebody could be manipulating Teen Lantern's power gauntlet, and like Myron had said, I feel like it's going to be Krona. And while he's not my favorite villain, I wouldn't mind seeing him return, and it would make sense considering his ties to the emotional spectrum and specifically the entities. It also got me thinking about way back when Green Lantern Lost Army came out, and the Corps was stuck in another universe. We had seen a version of Krona working with Relic. In that story, they weren't necessarily antagonists, but at the end they did tease that they were against the Lanterns, and they were going to save the universe together, but was never followed up. I doubt it, but I'd be curious if Jeremy or Hampton would bring that plot thread back. As for the new Green Lantern Corps series, I'll just flat out and say I've been very disappointed with it so far. When it was announced and we saw that first cover with only the Earth Lanterns on it, I had a feeling the series would only be about them, and so far that's what it's been. I miss when the Corps book featured only a few Earth Lanterns and we got to see more of the alien members of the Corps. There's so many alien GLs we haven't seen in years that I don't even know if they're around anymore, so it would be nice to see some familiar faces again, but I won't hold my breath. If the book was more exciting or engaging, I would change my tune, but it's been a bore for myself so far. And with the recent announcement that Morgan Hampton is taking over the book solo does not give me any faith for the future, so I might just have to drop the series after the Starbreaker Supremacy crossover, which is really disappointing. But I'm very thankful that we at least have Adams on the main Green Lantern book, and I hope to see his run continue for the foreseeable future. Thanks for putting up with my long rant, guys. I look forward to the podcast every month. You guys are always a highlight of my day when I get to listen to you both talk GL. Hope to be in touch again soon. Take care.
Hey, Celtic 527, good to hear from you again. We're both doing well. A bit of a streak lately with me and energy and stuff, but I was telling Jeremy Adams, it was funny when I ran into him there. He goes, he looked at me and he goes, "You would never know you had a stroke." Like, you're saying that now because I just walked up to you, but if you were watching me throughout the day, it'd be a different story. But sometimes you get too damn stubborn. But
I get it. I mean, but at least he was nice about it.
yeah, he's definitely a good guy.
He is. I remember the last time we had him on. He was fun to talk to. I can only imagine he's grown since then so much.
Oh yeah.
Lots changed.
But I agree with you that the Adams run has been fun. It's been a fun read. I didn't like the side story with Kyle being in it either. Um, you talked about the cast of characters with him being paired up with Superboy and Odyssey and Dan Garrett.
I like
Eh,
that.
I didn't mind it so much. It was interesting. I think originally he wanted to do Superboy and other members of the Titans, but the editor wanted him to use these other characters, something different. Like you mentioned, he wanted to use Wonder Girl, and I don't know whether it's just because he wants to tie Kyle to the Titans era. I think a lot of people felt that he belonged in Titans, and I could see that. I could see it. What I did like in it, as Celtic points out, it's good though because it's showing the Green Lantern universe being connected to the DC universe at large, which we have not seen a whole lot of in
Well,
years.
and it could be a way in for Kyle and Superboy to be in a Titans issue down the line with them interacting as much as they did during this run.
Yeah.
And Kyle would be a good fit in that book. I mean, like you said, I've always liked him in Titans. I always thought it was cool over there.
And Celtic is says a lot of the same things we feel about Krona and the Gauntlet and so on. Um, and yeah, like he points out, Krona's not necessarily my favorite villain either, but it's nice to see that level of villain being looked at to come in versus something different. Like I didn't care for Relic.
And Relic was kind of lame.
Yeah. And I think you and I echoed that the Green Lantern Corps book is definitely the weaker of the two. It's funny. I don't want to say anything that gets anybody in trouble, but Morgan Hampton, his tweets came up in conversation between me and Jeremy Adams. And he said, "Yeah, he's young. He doesn't think about repercussions of what he says." And the problem is you say stuff like that, and it doesn't give me any faith in it. Just like when Jeffrey Thorne took over the book, gives me zero faith. So the idea of Adams leaving the Green Lantern Corps book and leaving it just to Morgan Hampton, um, I just hope Hal doesn't show up in it because I know he doesn't like Hal. He has said some very non-complimentary things, and I don't want him anywhere near him. But we'll see. And in Celtic, I don't think it's a long rant. You've got some great points, and it's always great to hear other people's opinions, whether they agree with mine or not. I think everybody's got a fair right to say what they think and share their opinions and their side of the story and what they like to see. So we're all different.
And this is fandom.
That's right.
This is what we do.
That's right. All right. Well, Powering, we got one more left. So why don't you go ahead and give it to us?
The last message is from Matt, who has some thoughts about the Parallax entity, Hal Jordan and Sinestro. Transmitting in 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys. I want to discuss Parallax and his relationship with Hal and Sinestro for a moment. I never want to see Hal become Parallax ever again, but I recognize that the menacing, super powerful version of Hal has his fans and still want him back. That got me wondering. Why does it feel like Sinestro merged with Parallax isn't even close to being that powerful? Would he need to absorb a central power battery like Hal did? For all I know, this is a hole in my knowledge Myron might be able to help me out with. But is it not possible for Sinestro to be a Justice League villain worthy of succeeding Hal's Parallax? Whether the yellow entity or Sinestro himself is in control of his body, I feel like a writer could come up with a way to make Sinestro Parallax a much bigger threat than we've seen. Just an idea. Let me know what you guys think. Keep up the good work and let's hope that the Lantern series isn't the slap in the face we're expecting it to be.
All right, Matt. Well, it's lucky that you wrote this at the time when you wrote this because me and Myron had a big, long discussion about Parallax this very same episode. But we can pick up on the key highlights. Now, Myron says that the Parallax was lost beyond when you said it was a pocket universe, right?
Yeah, he was trapped in a power ring, and that power ring got put in a pocket universe. And
Now,
that
along the line, Sinestro got Parallax and is actually, and maybe Parallax is inhabiting Sinestro the whole time, and maybe that's something that's in the background that we're not seeing.
I think Matt brings up an interesting point, though, that when Sinestro is merged with Parallax, he's not as close to being as powerful as it is when Hal was merged with Parallax.
Good point. That's true.
And I would argue that it's maybe because Sinestro's not as powerful as Hal.
Oof. And Hal is up there tonight.
But I also think that Hal's version of Parallax had the advantage of absorbing all of the energy of a power battery.
Well, and it's also worth mentioning to approach, right? I mean, Hal's approach and Sinestro's approach are two different aspects of how they both function as characters,
Yeah.
right? So when you say one is better than the other, it's not just that one is just simply better than the other. It's one is better than the other in a lot of different ways that can overcome the other person because they don't inhabit those same traits. Like you said, I mean, I think Hal in the past run with the Adams has shown a lot of different aspects of his character that we haven't seen before in the past. And mainly it has to do a lot with his confidence and his arrogance. I think he's more confident now.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
think he's more I wouldn't say cocky in a way that he's cocky and arrogant about it, but I think he can back it up. I don't
I
feel that he's like, oh yeah, Hal Jordan is he's so godly, he's so cocky. That's not what I've ever felt about Hal Jordan. Mine's more like, yeah, he can spout off lines like that and he can be cocky like that because he can back it up, and he always has.
I think the difference to me between Hal Parallax and Sinestro Parallax is this. Hal Parallax is Parallax in charge of Hal because Hal didn't have the mastery of fear. He could master will. The difference is when Sinestro is merged with Parallax, Sinestro's in charge. So you've got Parallax and his power levels and what he can do in charge of Hal and using Hal as a tool. But with Sinestro, Sinestro is using Parallax as a tool, and he's not letting Parallax do some of the crazy stuff he would do. And Parallax's agenda doesn't come to the forefront. Does that make more sense?
Good point. I mean, it's a really good point. Yeah.
Uh, I, it's interesting. Matt says a couple things that like the lineup with what you said is Sinestro doesn't seem to be as big of a deal as he should be. And I agree 100%. I think it's just like when Green Lanterns are used in other characters' books, they're not used to their fullest extent. And I think the same thing happens with villains. Whenever there's a group of villains together, it's always the Joker or Lex Luthor who's the big person in charge, and Sinestro is relegated to the background. But when he's brought to the foreground like he was in Sinestro Corps, you see his true worth. But I think just like they have to, I don't want to say dumb down, but if they have to weaken Green Lantern to make them fight alongside Batman, you've got to weaken Sinestro to have him fight alongside Lex Luthor and Joker and those guys. You've got to bring him down to earth. But
I thought they could have done something else with him than letting him ride. What is this? Back seat? I didn't mean we'd be back seat. I think he's riding in like the trunk area of the Lantern books, right?
right, right. Yeah, Sinestro should not be at all interested in anything the Earth villains have interest in.
None at all. And I'm surprised that the character's being swung that way. That's why I'm confused by his. I mean, I'm not saying everything should be in sync, and I'm not saying every writer should know their characters, but I mean, Sinestro clearly never gave a crap about Earth or any of the Earth lanterns. He always crapped all over them to begin with. Every time he
I,
talked to him, he
I,
crapped on
I think it goes back to the Super Friends and the Legion of Doom, and that every hero had to have their counterpart in the Legion of Doom, whether it made sense or not. And
him.
so I think we've got that whole mentality of, well, Sinestro's got to be there because we need a Green Lantern villain in here. Well, use somebody else. Use Black Hand or Hector Hammond. Well, he wouldn't be a good fit, but you know what I mean. There's
Yeah.
a, there's other characters, Dr. Polaris or somebody. But Sinestro's he's the marquee villain, arch rival for Green Lantern. So we need to use him, but we can't use him to his full potential because he needs to fill in alongside Cheetah. You know.
Yeah, I get it.
And Matt's a little more optimistic about lanterns than I am. Uh,
I think everybody's more optimistic about lanterns than you are at this
you,
point.
you would not be wrong. I have canceled my Max subscription. I'm not watching Peacemaker.
Well, shame on you. Peacemaker's really good.
Is it?
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I watched the second episode the other day, and I mean,
I enjoyed the first season. Don't get me
if
wrong.
if I have to say that there's one character that I never really gave a crap about, it was Peacemaker. I'll be honest
Mhm.
with you, I didn't care anything about him at all. I don't care about him now, but I do say I care that John Cena has really, really taken on the character, and I like what they're doing with him. And the writing is great. I mean, the direction it's going, I don't know where it's supposed to go. I would imagine the DC is going to work in the different universe kind of thing, the multiverse concepts. I'm sure that's where they'll be going because it brings that kind of stuff up in this season. But I like John Cena. I mean, he's just really good at the character, and it's funny, and the humor in it is just it's good. I'm not saying get Max back. It's not. If you get Max back, you need to watch Superman on it all the time when it's released on Max. That's the reason you should get Max back. Or when Lanterns start.
Yeah. It's funny. I got taken to task by another content creator
Right?
because I'm not talking about lanterns in a positive way and that I'm not going to that I'm not watching it. And they were like, "Well, you're one of the biggest voices in the Green Lantern community. Shouldn't you be?"
No,
No, not if
no. I'm gonna finish that for you. No, we should not be anyway like that.
I don't. There are enough Green Lantern comic content creators that if people want to talk about lanterns, they can talk about it there. Because if they talk about it here, it's probably not going to be favorable. Nobody wants to listen to a 60-year-old guy rant all the time.
Right. And not only that, we're not gonna and not I'm not big into the whole idea of talking big about something that I don't have not number one, I don't have enough like built up information on to go on. Number two, haven't seen yet or read yet or whatever yet. I want to give it some time. And after the fact is different. If I don't like something, I'm going to tell you, well, this is the reasons why I don't like it.
Right.
You're a big person. That means that you can go out and draw your own conclusions too. That
Right.
doesn't going to be yours or mine.
I, I,
They're going to
I
be yours.
do I want to see Green Lantern on the screen? Absolutely, I do. But I'm not so starved for content that I'm willing to accept something I don't fundamentally believe in.
Well, I mean, I
Understand?
mean, no, not with what they're doing with one of your characters. I'd be the same way.
Right. And we don't know what they're doing, but the implications are that it's not going to be favorable. And for those that want to use the whole, well, fans get it wrong all the time and yada, yada, yada. And you can't criticize something before you see it. Why don't you watch it first? Well, A, I don't want to artificially inflate the streaming numbers. One. Um, and two, yeah, fans do get it wrong a lot of the times. I remember the outrage over Michael Keaton as Batman.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it was outrage, but there was a lot of like, chin rubbing of, oh my gosh, this doesn't make sense. Were they going for humor? I liked Michael Keaton as Batman, and I was okay with it when they cast him because I'd seen him in a movie. Oh gosh, he had done a dramatic role. I can't remember the name of the movie just now, but he had done a dramatic role where he was a drug addict, and it was him going through therapy and all that kind of stuff. And it was quite a good movie, and it was a straight up drama. So I'm like, oh, he's got the chops. But let me put it to you this way. Um, Maybe you, and I don't feel if you remember this or not, but there was a time when there was a Green Lantern movie that was going to get made. And it was not the Ryan Reynolds movie. It was a Jack Black movie.
Oh, I remember hearing about this. Yeah.
hmm And DC Warner Brothers was going to go ahead with a Jack Black comedy written by the Schmeichel brothers from Saturday Night Live. And it had scenes where Green Lantern makes prophylactic constructs. And fans like myself were like, not only no, but F no. And enough of us said it that it didn't get made. Now, if we'd have sat around and said, well, let's wait and see it and see if it's any good, we'd have gotten a movie which would have trashed that character worse than the Ron Reynolds movie ever thought of. And it would never would have gotten out from underneath the shadow of that version of Green Lantern.
Yeah.
So
That would
No,
have done some pretty bad damage.
I don't adopt the philosophy of we just need to stick around. I do think we need to be reasonable with our expectations when we hear a casting announcement because we have not always seen, just like that movie that Keaton did, it didn't get a wide release. So a lot of people didn't know. I think it was called No Way Out, now that I think about it. Um, I could be wrong, but it was a good movie. But it didn't get a wide enough release that it wasn't in the public consciousness. So the last thing they had seen Michael Keaton in was Mr. Mom.
Right.
So Mr. Mom and Batman, you don't see it. Of course you don't see it. Just like I don't think Blake Lively was necessarily great casting for Carol Ferris. I thought she turned in a pretty wooden performance, but I think some of that goes to the production of that film in its entirety. She had done another movie that hadn't been released yet, and people were, people hadn't seen it, but the casting directors had seen it and saw something there. Just like Ryan Reynolds, they'd only ever seen him in comedic roles. Can he carry a superhero franchise? He did a movie called Buried, in which he was a contractor in the Middle East, and the entire movie was him buried underground.
I remember that or not.
It was I don't want to say it was a horrible movie, but it was like I can't imagine filming in the, in that kind of constraints because he was actually filmed in that kind of constraint for the entire movie. And it doesn't have a happy ending, but it's all about this guy who's stuck, buried underground by terrorists, essentially, and what he goes through in that time when he's trying to get out and he's only got a phone. It's been him acting with a phone. The entire movie is just him and a phone.
Hmm.
Uh, great dramatic performance. Didn't like the movie because I didn't like the subject matter and I didn't like the tone of it, but showing what the actor can do, this was a case of Ryan Reynolds acting and not what we see these days where it's Ryan Reynolds in different versions with different costumes being called something different, but it's still Ryan Reynolds. He hasn't disappeared in the role. This is a case like Corn Sweat where he disappeared into the role, and you could see the potential from that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to. I mean, Aaron Pierre, I think, great actor. He's going to be good in the role of Jon Stewart. Kyle Chandler, good actor. I don't doubt that at all. But I disagree fundamentally with making Hal Jordan that old. I think it's a stupid thing to do. And so I'm not going to get behind it for those reasons. And I'm not going to watch it for those reasons. Now, if 3 episodes in, everybody's saying this is the greatest thing ever, might I get back to getting Max and watch it? I might. But I don't. I am so soured on the creative directions and the unwillingness to see the bigger picture of you've got probably the two biggest fan bases of Green Lantern fans. Why tick off either one of them when you could have it all? But instead, you're going to go one direction and play Highlander, and there's only going to be one that is going to be the lead character. Mistake.
I
Horrible
mean,
mistake.
like at the end of the day, we talked about this real early on about what's the point. I mean, at what point are you a producer or a director and you're making the decisions? Man, I want to make Hal Jordan old, and this is where I'm going to go with my story. So you've already got a preconceived notion that Hal Jordan's not going to exist beyond the scope of what you're trying to tell in a compact story that's going to be released on Max, right? At least that's a consensus we're under.
Sure, because he could be a mentor and not be that old.
Right.
Um, but anyway, sorry, we beat that dead horse again. But
Okay.
it's only going to happen more and more as we get closer. And I hope I don't turn people off.
I mean, that's just it, right? I mean, just because we're talking about stuff doesn't mean we're telling you to do or not to do. We've never ever said that. I mean, you
No,
have your own conclusions with your own material base. Hell, I don't think I've ever come across anybody that likes the Wonder Twins like I do. I mean, what does that tell you? Like,
right.
Wonder Twins? You like the Wonder Twins? Yeah. Geez, weren't those blah 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 blah? Yeah, they sure were. But they were more than that. But I'm sure you're just going to get the glossed over version of why they're one of my favorite characters. I mean, everybody's got their own quirks and likes.
Right.
And we can't say that enough, and we probably will never say it enough.
I will just say one other thing is that some of the pushback is, well, they want to show a universe that's been existing already and blah, 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 blah. Gosh, it's too bad they didn't have like a group of heroes that were older that maybe were like a Justice Society of heroes that could have come before, but whatever.
Well, I mean, if they're going to show a universe where everything already existed, then that kind of did Superman. What I mean, he's young, right?
Right. This is 3 years after Superman arrives. But
Right.
yet, but yet the modern DC heroes are already there
And old, apparently,
and old. Right.
and well, I mean, but still, it doesn't jive with Hal and Clark's relationship. You know, I mean, this isn't Kingdom Come, so if you're
There,
going to go
there,
that
there,
route,
there won't be a relationship.
yeah, apparently not.
No,
Which
no.
kind of
For me, the only redeeming thing they could do is have Hal old because of the parallax thing and not make him 60, not allude to his real age, and then do the whole rebirth thing with the younger actor. But I don't think we'll get around to that.
never say never, friend.
I didn't say never. I just don't see it happening. Anyway,
Tom King heard you the other day, by the way.
I doubt it. I doubt it. In the back of my head, I was like, I hope he leans over to look at the picture. But anyway, Powering, why don't you tell everybody how they can be a part of the show, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap things up.
You can become a part of the show by leaving a message up to 1 minute long on our voicemail line. Call us at 406-POD-OA. That's 406-763-6362. You can also email us at podcast@blogofoa.com. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, episode 263. I can't believe it. That's many episodes. That's a lot. That's a lot of content.
But not as much as some others,
No, not as much as some others. But it has been fun, and we haven't been on in a while. It feels like. I know we've been bouncing around trying to get on the past week.
Yeah, I have an idea, but I don't want to say it on camera because I don't want to set an expectation we can't live up to. But
All right.
we'll see what we can do about some things. But anyway, I enjoyed talking about these two books. I thought they were both good, other than maybe the art in the Green Lantern book. But I enjoyed them. I like where the story is going. I hope it reaches a satisfactory conclusion. We'll see how it goes.
The Starbreakers making waves.
That's right. All right, well, friends, we will be back again soon. I promise it won't be as long as it's been. Promise. Hold me to it. But until then, we'll keep everybody going, keep everything going well, treat each other well, keep that power ring charged, and make every day your brightest day. Thanks so much for watching this Green Lantern video from the blog of OA. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find even more great Green Lantern videos, reviews, podcasts, and more at our main website, www.blogofoa.com. So until next time, keep your power ring charged and make every day your brightest day.